So, hello, welcome along to the third episode of the Tasting Hour. I'm Jason.
I'm Gary.
Today, we were supposed to be having a special guest. Unfortunately, due to health problems, well, basically family issues with the wife and the newborn, George won't be joining us for this episode, but he will be with us sometime in the new year for a future episode.
Yeah, so after a quick little bit of thinking, we decided that this one is going to be involving quite a lot of tasting.
Yes.
Testing and tasting.
Indeed. So
because there's quite a lot in the first two episodes where people have given us ideas or things to try, and so we're going to explore some of those avenues today.
Yeah, and let you know basically how simple and easy it is to try this. Me and Gary were talking off camera, and it's interesting that it's literally a simple thing like trying olives with your cigar. It's like, well, you wouldn't actually do that normally. You just sit there and enjoy your cigar with your drink or whatever you're having, rather than actually physically do a pairing like this.
But I think that was Michael's point. It's trying the things that you wouldn't normally do.
Yes.
So we do have nice big olives, some cheddar cheese, and some sweet biscuits, and I think even some peanuts. And we shall just explore the ambros of what we think. We might find that actually most of it's quite revolting, or we find some of it's quite nice.
Yeah, I got a feeling some of it's not going to work, but that's why we're here. We're going to try it.
Yeah.
Before we do that, though, we're going to answer a couple of questions whilst we try this very unusual cigar. Now, I like this cigar. It first became popular back in 2007, which is when PARTAGÁS actually released it. This was normally made for the cigar workers at their factories, where they used to grab 3 cigars, roll them together and let them dry in this very unusual shape. You do look like a tit while you smoke it. I should just warn you that now. But I've never had a bad one of these, never had a plugged cigar of this. I am very aware just how much I've tempted fate. So you, I believe, have not had this cigar yet.
No. I think I've seen or tried to smoke something. Somebody's done something similar.
Yeah, there's been a New World variation.
A few years back, and I think I have tried that. And you start by actually trying to, you sort of look at all 3 and decide, am I going to really try and stick all 3 into thing and smoke it? Because if not, there'll be so much air coming, you'll never get any kind of muff that.
Although it's a similar sort of thing with the Leaf by Oscar. People look at it and go, well, do I smoke the whole thing like this? Not realizing it is a process you need to unwrap it and then smoke it. So on that note, let us unwrap this and get it going. This is where he breaks it. Right, so that peels off. The choice, Gary, is yours. Which one would you like?
I think I'll start with
that one.
That little one.
I'll take that one, and we'll leave that one as a spare. This is a really good cigar to share with friends because it's a talking point.
Yep. As long as you don't have 4 friends, of course, in which case somebody's going to stooge out.
Yeah, that can be a problem.
3's a crowd already.
I'm very pleased to say that Gary's got a V-cut.
Well, it's this, nothing against the guillotine cuts, and I still use them on some cigars, particularly if I'm preparing. But I have felt that, particularly with a good cutter, it'd be nice to be able to see what Jason's talking about, as there'll be 1 or 2 things later on where I know what he's been talking about, and there again with something else towards the end of the program. We're going to start with the cigars, and then later we'll do the tasting with the various items of food. We're also then going to...
There's going to be some whiskey involved. Finally getting into some whiskies.
Very much so. There's about, I think I have 8 different whiskies to talk about.
I think there are 8 that we're going to go through.
There's 8 different things. There's certainly 5 we're going to retest.
On that, what do you think of the draw?
Haven't gotten that far yet.
Do a dry draw before you light it.
That actually is ready to go.
Yeah, it is surprisingly, for Cuban, very slow, but it's a very open draw for such an unusual shaped cigar. And as we've come inside for this one, because the weather today is horrific, I'm going to use a soft flame because it shouldn't go out, hopefully.
And if I had time to think about that we're going to be inside today, I would have brought some matches, and you can see me trying the art of lighting a cigar with matches.
So it definitely is a slower process with a natural flame as opposed to a jet lighter.
You've got to remember the jet flame, of course, you're moving the jet flame around, whereas with the actual flame, you should be having the flame static, and you're moving the cigar around it and up and down it to get it to warm up.
Yeah, so of course I'm doing that wrong. Right.
Yes, it is rather odd looking at something that's totally bent out of shape.
It doesn't, it feels weird. I mean, I do love this cigar, I have to admit. It is a personal favourite of mine. Again, probably because it's a Partagas, so it's got that traditional strength to the Partagas, this. And it's a very light draw, which for something of that shape, your brain kind of tells you that's not going to smoke. It's twisted up, there's no airflow through it, and yet for some reason they always seem to work perfectly.
I think, top of my head, because they know they're going to twist, it's a light. It's a light.
It's a light fill.
Light construction.
Yeah, it's
because
like,
it's going to bend and twirl, so
yeah.
they can't have it rigid, which means there's plenty of airspace.
Yeah, it's like the box press. There's less filler and binder in it because they know they're going to compress it down to get that shape. So again, it goes back to what we were saying with Michael when we were talking about the box press and the hexagon shapes. The hexagon has more in it to make sure it holds its shape, and the box press has less. So you actually get less for your money, but the novelty factor of this, I think, wins.
I wonder how old these cigars actually are, because that was something I would have reckoned they're probably only 2-3 years old.
Yeah, these aren't very old, unfortunately.
This doesn't have a hard taste that I would expect from a Partagas.
No, it will get a bit better, but it does have that Partagas sort of note. It doesn't. I think this is part of the problem we've discussed a lot about Cubans. Bolivars and Partagas don't have the strength they used to have. They used to be the big heavyweights of Cubans. They were always, right, that's the cigar that's going to kick you, whereas the Hoya de Monterrey is the cigar that's going to gently wake you up.
Yeah, I think, but Hoya's always been a light cigar, so it's got light flavours and textures. And I don't think that's a problem. The same with Upman as well. Whereas Partagas, it was something, listening to Rocky's interview, you realise how long they're holding tobaccos for.
Yeah.
Traditionally, when I did the course at Hunters and Franco for basic cigar work, you're talking about 2.5 years before a cigar comes to you from when it grows in seed, which is actually fresh as they come.
Yeah.
With their state of agriculture moment, not long enough.
No, it's not at all.
And I don't think on some of their strong ones, it is long enough.
I think that's where the strong ones are failing because they haven't had time to actually mature.
Yeah, they're getting them out the door
too fast.
They're
Whereas, I mean, Rocky was saying he sits on his 4 or 5 years before they even start rolling them. And that's given them the age before they're even made into the cigars when they're sat on them for another 6 months before they're released to shops. And in transit, so there's another year on that. So they're about 5 years old before they get to you at home anyway. Whereas a Cuban, as you say, can literally be... I've seen boxes of cigars now, August, literally less than a year old. August 24 or June, July.
They used to sit with hunters for at least 6 months to a year before you saw them. Yeah. And I think that's half the problem. They're not sitting around, they're trying to keep the money flowing, not realise that actually they should look at what the French do.
Yeah.
I mean, Rocky in that sense and looking to see what the leaf is going to turn into and all the rest and his different vintages as the crops come in. I think that's very important because then you get the consistency going. There's always going to be something in those top French wines that they go through.
They're always going to justify their price tag.
Because they don't mind going short.
Yeah, I think the cigar market at the moment isn't. It just wants to keep that buck coming in.
And that I think was certainly true if I think over the 20 years, if I go back 15 years, let's say it's 2010 onwards, there was a lot of stuff coming in because it was coming off the American market from the cigar boom. And a lot of them are not that good. But I think if you think of Oscar, Rocky, and there's quite a few others, some of which we saw at the Cigar Fest, but also in Nicaragua and Dominica, are realizing that the quality of the product is go for that.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing, is that Rocky's mindset very much was, no, it's about the quality. I don't believe you need to pay £100 for a cigar. that isn't the driving factor of why I make cigars. I make cigars for the quality.
And that's interesting because the quality side is what made Davidoff move out of Cuba in the first place, and dead right as well.
Yeah.
But they've established themselves at Cuban price level for a lot of stuff.
For a New World
Whereas
cigar.
most of the other New Worlds are looked at, or certain things are looking for a quality of a product, whether it's Rocky from his experience for the last 30 odd years or 40 years.
Plasencia. I mean, Plasencia is a really good one for sort of the quality over the price point. Their quality is almost second to none.
And I'd rather buy that than some of the Cubans at the moment.
Yeah, I did say this in a video I did on TikTok a little while ago. There are actually now some New World cigars that I would buy over Cuban cigars. And as a Cuban snob, that is something I never thought I would ever be able to say. But genuinely, in terms of quality and what I'm getting for value for money, I'm going to have to start taking some of the New Worlds. I mean, you've got the M81, that is a personal favourite of mine, not just because it's a Metallica thing, but because I actually rate that as a genuine cigar in its own right.
Yeah, which we've said before, and the same goes for actually the Davidoff Late Hour.
Yes.
It's a really nice crafted
Oh,
cigars.
yeah. That is one of my favourite Davidoffs.
But there are some manufacturers who tip themselves up because they've been able to historically to put themselves at the Cuban price level.
Yeah.
And I think Rocky's right. Tobacco is not an expensive product. It's like every agricultural thing. It's what you do with the product that earns you the money. But he's still making a lot of money because he's consistent with what he does.
Yeah.
And that's more important, consistency and quality.
Indeed. Right. Now you're about 1.5 centimetres in. Have you retro-held that cigar yet?
I have taken some smoking on the first two, and it's sort of
It's
quite
a bit
strong
of
for
pepper.
the night. It's a bit of
It's
pepper
a bit of
going
pepper there. Which is where I would say the Partagas side of it does come to the forefront a bit.
Yes, and you can definitely taste that it's Partagas.
Yeah.
But I don't find it particularly strong.
No.
But I have found that even with Monte Cristo, which is supposed to be at the strong end, I think it should be full of flavour. Montes are probably closest to it at the moment.
Montes have definitely been the most consistent Cuban, I would say. For me personally, every time I've had a Monte, especially over the last 18 months, 2 years, they've definitely been a Monte.
And I think when Anna from Hunters, who used to work for Havana SA for years, was talking about the fact that Monte Cristo is now back into its own original factory, and if that's their only source, then they'll start getting very consistent. Because traditionally, all the factories made all the cigars, with the exception of the Linea Classica,
which was
Cahibas.
Yeah, which were in their own right.
Were in their own right. But even now, they're not holding their strength that they used to.
No.
I spoke to one, I think, about a year ago, and it was sort of, no, I remember something a lot better.
Yeah.
A lot more taste.
Couple of questions that came up after the last episode. Thank you for everybody who did ask. In fact, I actually posted an Instagram story yesterday, and somebody did ask, good, top of the head, good, strong cigar. Just top of the head. It doesn't matter what it is, just a good, strong cigar.
San Andreas by Christoph.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's at the 660
Yeah, that's
level,
the
which
660.
is a 60 ring gauge. I haven't tried a Robusto once because you often get a change when you go down.
Yeah.
But a bigger, fatter cigar, because it is a Toro length as well, they have a lot more room to play with what they're doing.
Yeah.
And you get it as you smoke it.
Yeah. I think that's the thing that people don't really understand a lot with cigars. The actual length of the cigar will change how that smokes. Because as you say, the rollers have more time to play with the filler and the binder and how they mix it together. I tend to go for Churchill size or Toro size cigars more often than I do Robustos. Although I do know Robustos are probably the most famous size and most consistently sold, like the Partagas D4. That sort of size cigars, the Robusto. Whereas the Monte 2 is your Churchill sort of Toro size. I think it's for me, because I always tend to smoke while I'm driving somewhere or I've got time to kill. Like, funny enough, doing this, have time to smoke. So therefore, I like having that longer smoke. And I get more of a story from a longer smoke.
Yes, I must admit, I don't necessarily look for the story. I tend to smoke because I'm watching a rugby match. And a Robusto is very good for half an hour of rugby. Or sorry, the first half of rugby. And then you decide to smoke another one depending what the scoreline is doing. Meanwhile, this is still happily going along.
It's an amazingly good smoke, gotta say. It is as I've said before, it is a personal favourite of mine. Not just because it makes you not take it too seriously.
And I think that's one of the points when I think it was Michael talking about you have to be on a journey. I counted out how many different types of cigar I had in the shop, and I have 60.
Wow. Actually, I've never really thought about it. I just walk in, go, yeah, I'll have that, and that, and you never really think about...
Not 60 companies.
60 different variations.
60 different blends.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so for example, Monte Cristo,
yeah.
I might have 4 or 5. I think I have 6 different types of Monte Cristo, but that is a blend.
Yeah.
That's a recipe. So you have the Cubans, 7 or 8 of them.
Yeah.
And then you go into New Worlds where there's quite a lot of companies and have 2 or 3 from each customer, or in the case of Rocky, I think it's 5 now. Because I brought in the number 6, which we both like.
That is a very good, and again, that goes back to the story of wrappers and stuff, because that's got a lovely Maduro wrapper on it, but that's a very different Maduro wrapper than, say, the Partagas number 3 Maduro.
Yeah.
Obviously, I mean, you're talking New World over Cuban, but they're both Maduro cigars, but they're both very different.
It's not actually, it's a very light one. The interior is the interior.
Oh, okay.
It's got something going on with the wrapper.
I was going to say, I thought the wrapper was Maduro.
Not by its colour. But I'm happy to be corrected.
If not,
we'll go. I have all my handbooks with me from the various customers. We'll go and have a look in a minute.
Yeah, we'll have a look off camera and come back and just ignore that.
It's the innovation and experimentation that goes on that excites me. I think, and that's where the Cubans have. They're not advancing themselves. They're being very complacent in that sense. Everybody's going to smoke what they put out. That's fine. But rather like wine, there's a whole world out there.
That's just it. And I think this is the thing, which is one of the things I want to do with the show, is educate people. Because as I've said, I am a Cuban snob, and I'm changing my ways because obviously the chats you and I have had over the years, and my other friends who smoke a lot more New Worlds than I do, they're saying, look, you're missing out. You're very blinkered in your approach. You need to broaden your horizons a bit. And I have to admit, I've come across a few cigars lately that I am very happily over the moon with and would smoke pretty much every day. And I almost 4 to 5 now. It used to be like every cigar I would have would only be Cuban. And now I'm quite happy to have maybe 3 or 4 New Worlds to every Cuban. So I've swung quite a lot the other way.
And I think there's... COVID did a lot of things with production for everybody, and I think that's what's changed in quite a few of the other shops. I mean, I'm a small shop, but I still have 60 different flavors, which is 60 different products, which gives me the range that I feel that the shop needs. But you go to some of the city ones, they'll have a much bigger range than I do.
Oh, yeah.
Because they've got the space to carry that stock level.
They've also got the footfall. I mean, if you, for example, you're in London, I can think of at least 5 different cigar lounges in London. They got masses of storage. So they got a massive range as a result. But that's because they've got the footfall to cover it. Unfortunately, where we are down here, as much as I would love you to have a massive cigar shop, just for my own personal preference, I understand why you can't do that, because there isn't the footfall to warrant you holding on to that size of stock.
It's not only the footfall, it's the amount of stock you actually have to carry. I mean, mine's in tens of thousands already. Several tens of thousands. And that's just my basic stock level. That's without topping up at the various times a year or wondering what people are going to come in, because you know that as we're running towards Christmas now, that there'll be a lot of casual smokers coming in, so I have to have those lighter smokes in. But there's still quite a wide range that people can go for depending on how long they think they want to go. And that's something that we've talked about in other programs, and we've tested a lot of the short cigars. You asked me if I'm a strong one, I went for the San Andreas, but I'd also probably include the M81 in that as well. Because that's a new one to me, and it goes to the list. But I'd also add a couple of Rocky Patels into that level, quite happily.
Yeah, actually, Rocky, definitely, he's well and truly gone up in my estimations. Not just because I had a chat with him, but because I've tried enough of the cigars now to understand how he's working and where his blends are going.
Yeah, he's looking to find different expressions of smoking for people. So there are lots of Rocky Patels we won't particularly be a fan of, but that's not his point.
No.
He's looking at everybody and trying to find new niches and things and go through. And that's something where I think he is successful and will carry on being successful.
Yeah. Right, so into the last inch and a half, so into the last third.
Yep.
I've gone over to a can of Coke. This is actually a Japanese version of Coke because it's got a screw top lid. I really like these. You're still drinking your coffee.
I'm still drinking my coffee.
How are you finding that cigar now we're into the last third?
Doing what I expect it to do.
It is a Partagas, isn't it?
It is a Partagas.
This is what we know
The
Partagas
strength
as.
of it's now starting to come through. Be interested to know when these were actually made. Because very much at the moment, most of the stuff coming through is probably where we 25, so 23. There'll be some 24s coming through.
I've seen
looking at the
24s.
boxes.
Yeah, I've seen 24s this year. So I've even seen a box that's got 25 on it.
Hey.
And that's too young. And yes, I have smoked it, and it was too young. So hence, not smoking that for a while.
Mind you, if you want to buy a box and put it in your back shelf, as some people do, and I had that interesting conversation in London, you might remember talking about in July, where that's what the guy does. He's buying them and they go into the back, and somewhere in a couple of years they will come
he'll cycle it through.
And go through.
Yeah. And I get that.
And for those people, that's fine. But for the average smoker, it's they will just taste a fresh cigar.
I think that's the interesting thing, isn't it? There's definitely a couple of variations of cigar smokers. There are the people who love the whole aging process. I got a friend in London who literally only smokes vintage cigars.
And there will be a lot of like people around the world who can do that. And they will probably experience more of the taste as the cigar improves. But the general market is, I certainly find in this country, are a lot of people who know little or nothing about it. And if they're willing to take some guidance, you don't necessarily put them at the Cubans unless you want to. Although, Hoyo de Monterey, I always will. But invariably, they know of Romeo and Juliet and they know of Partagas. Partagas maybe. Monte Cristo. Monte Cristo are probably not too far off at the moment.
I think that's the thing as well, isn't it? It's people have a preconception, and that's what you're always fighting against. It's like, I know about Monte Cristo, I know about Romeo and Juliet. My issue with Romeo and Juliet is, other than they give me a sore throat, is it's where most of the cigar rollers start. So the most inexperienced cigar rollers are rolling the Romeo and Juliets, which is why the production on the Romeo and Juliet isn't great, because you're getting that hit and miss a lot more.
That's an interesting note, and it's a shame that they do that, because Romeo's, we were told at a function earlier on in the year that Monte Cristo was the biggest selling one, but I'm surprised that Romeo isn't there. It's the one that everybody goes for.
Yeah. To me, I smoked for years. To me, Romeo is where I would have said was the biggest one. Monte would have been a close second, yet apparently Monte number 4, which is one of my favourite cigars, that's the most popular cigar in the world. I find that very hard to believe.
Yeah, because you're up against effectively the Romeo and Juliet number 2 in its tube.
Yeah.
Now, this is now coming nicely towards the end. It's probably time to move on to the next bit.
Yeah, I think we'll move on to the next bit. So we're going to finish these, and then we'll come back to you once we got the next bit set up for you. See you in a sec.
So here we are. We've got some cheese, olives, peanuts, and
cookies.
Some nice sweet white chocolate cookies.
Always got to have cookies.
And we're going to smoke a couple of Christoph Kröllers, if I pronounce it right.
Yep.
Something like that.
Thank you very much.
Which we have tried before.
Yes.
Because I got a couple after the event, and it reminded us very much of the PDR.
Oh, the
Corella, which is similar. It's got a slightly longer name, but basically it's a similar type of cigar. We like both. Although the PDR one is actually a really nice light medium smoke.
Yeah, so we think we're both basically smoking the same cigars, so we're doing it, essentially we're like an equal palate. Although Gary did actually just peel his pigtail off, which is a good trick to do on a cigar. If it's got a pigtail, you don't need a cutter.
No, it's drawing. It's ready to go.
Me though, I'm just a creature of habit, so I went straight for the V-cut again. So we're gonna light up the cigars, and then we're gonna do pairings with each one and see how we feel it changes. This is the sort of thing, it's a great thing to do with a friend actually, like we're doing here. Rather than doing this on your own, it's a nice thing to do with somebody else so you can actually discuss what you're thinking. And I think being able to say stuff like this out loud actually reaffirms a lot of it. Doing it on your own, you kind of get a bit, well, did I get that or do I not get that? Am I just thinking it? But being able to bounce it off somebody else, I think helps. So let's light up. Well, Gary's lit his. I'm playing catch up.
Well, just about.
Interesting though, the fact they've been sat out here with us while we were doing that first one, you can feel the humidity's changed the cigar.
Oh, yes. Well, the humidity the last week in the shop each morning is between 66 and 70.
Ooh, that's a lot of change.
Yeah, until I put the air conditioning on. And then it's drawn it down, which is what everybody's heating will do at home. But it's also a question during the summer, but most of the time in this country, the average humidity because of the rainfall and the general climate because of the Atlantic, most of the time you don't need a humidor.
Yeah.
There are some hot days during the summer where actually some of the hot days were very humid. And it was fun working the cabinets.
The humidity this year has definitely been more noticeable, I think, this year than I've noticed it in many a year. Our climate is definitely changing, which means we have to think about how we store our cigars because it does affect it.
It's going to be very difficult, I think. I certainly found it last year, and again this year, that you have to work harder to keep the cigars right for people.
Yeah.
But I do find that some of the cigars could actually do with a slightly lower setting than the 69 or 68 that people talk about.
Yeah, I think that again goes back to our discussion earlier on about people, the companies are rushing the cigars out. They're not having time to sit. So they're not aging properly. So therefore, when you get them, they need to dry out a bit more. They're not quite ready to be straight released.
Or they need some more airtime before they've gone into cellophane, which is certainly something we know. We found out a couple of months ago on one particular cigar, which resulted in me taking a lot of them out of their cellophane to let them breathe. Right,
this cigar, that's quite a bit sweeter. That's a sweeter note than the Partagas have.
Very slight one. We first smoked this about a month ago, not long after the Summer Fest.
Yeah.
And it was quite interesting. Definitely a Christoph. There are notes of some of the other cigars. You can
definitely
see
has that
their
base
heritage lurking through. But it's not over strong. It's a very pleasant smoke.
And I think this is a good cigar to do this sort of tasting with because it's like it's having something that you identify with a base note, so you'll know where your palate is with it. And therefore, when you try pairing something with it, whether it be like the olives or the cheese, half the equation's already been built. It is just getting that extra element in it. You haven't quite lit that, Jerry.
Yes, I am lit at the top.
Sorry. Don't wish to point that out, but you haven't quite lit that right.
This is where matches today would have worked well.
That actually is a nice cigar. But again, you see, this goes back to the point I made earlier on. I'd actually picked this over some Cubans. I would definitely put that probably over quite a few Cubans at the moment if I had the choice.
I think if I wanted a lighter smoke, I'd still go for Hoya.
Yes.
My preference is Hoya than Upman, but that's a preferential.
Yeah, I mean,
taste.
I would probably go Hoya, Paul Larianga, and then Upman. The Paul Larianga Petite Corona is one of my favorites because it comes in a cab of 50. And that is a very good cigar. It's like a perfect, more creamy coffee morning sort of cigar. But you can only buy it in cabs of 50. So getting them is not easy.
One reason why some other cigars I don't have, because certain Corona sizes people tend to go for Robustos because that's what most of the New World ones come at. Although there's quite a lot of Coronas out there. But they tend to be a little bit more expensive, and people like to flick a gauge in their hand when they're walking around the party somewhere.
Yeah.
That's a factor.
Yeah, this goes again against one of the conversations we had before on the last show where we smoked the
Lancero.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you. The Lancero. It's more seasoned cigar smokers will probably smoke smaller ring gauges. That's what I quite liked about that little Partagas. It's only a 39 millimeter ring gauge, so it's a nice small ring gauge. Whereas the shall we say, it's a girth thing. With these cigars, you're feeling slightly more masculine because it's a bigger size cigar. Whereas having the smaller cigar ring gauge actually, personally for me, is, if I see two cigar smokers and one has got the smaller ring gauge, I'm going to say he's probably the more experienced cigar smoker because he's in it much more for the flavors of what he's doing rather than the image of what he's holding.
Probably very true. Although I think as time goes on, as various companies work out what they can do with the cigars, that will probably change on some.
Yes.
Particularly if you started off on your journey, stick with the same ring gauge because then you can calculate what you're doing. Yeah,
exactly. It's giving you that that baseline. It's like the cigar. We're smoking the cigar, but we understand that that's a traditional Christoph. I get the other elements of the other Christophs that I've smoked in that cigar.
And thinking of trying things, I'm going to start there.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the olive, I think. Let me just grab a fork. That's interesting. That's a weird combination. Ooh, that's really brought the vinegar out. Oh, I'm not a fan of that. And I love olives, but I'm not a fan of that.
The cheese, being a mature cheddar, has softened this down.
Okay.
I was getting a little bit of spice beforehand, and that's just
taken it away. Ironically, it's made it slightly more acidic for me. It's a harsher taste now, the cigar. So I'm definitely not going to do another olive, but I will try a little bit of cheese. You see what I mean? It's
nice olives though.
Oh, very nice olives, but it's a weird. Yeah, it was a weird taste. So having the cigar after the olives was weird. Now having it after the cheese. Oh, actually, that's made it a very creamy little smoke.
Yep.
So that's just two things that have changed it totally.
I wasn't getting acidic. It was. The taste has changed, and I can still taste the vinegar in my mouth. Yeah.
Yeah. It just lingers a bit too much. Whereas the cheese it does soften it. Actually, so a mature cheddar and a cigar work. Olives and cigar, no. For me, anyway.
Might be. That's in vinegar. Probably worth thinking you want olives that are in oil.
Yeah, so it's the whole olive oil, or that might work.
Because that's also got some other bits of spice in there, apart from the herbs. But there's a lot going on with that. No, definitely.
That's a definite. I think we can move that out of the way.
Yeah, we can.
So I'm going to go for some sorted nuts, essentially.
I think it's the sharpness in the cheese is just sitting there, and it absorbs the little bit of spice that's in the cigar.
It helps the smoke sort of sits into your palate a bit more. Oh, those nuts though. That works. See?
Just freshen my palate up with some water.
Yeah, I can see me having some sorted peanuts with cigars in the future. That definitely sits there well. I think it's the interaction with the salt.
Yep.
It is
I can
interesting.
see why Michael suggested crisps.
Yeah, it's that salt.
It's the bit of salt. It's, again, rather like the cheese, probably a little bit of salt in the cheese is just soften the cigar down, but it's giving it a different taste. There's a different balance coming through.
Yeah, that definitely. Oh, so there's a definite recommendation. Some good salted peanuts with a cigar. Work. That definitely does work. Okay, so if you are sitting at home watching us do this, try this one. Drop a comment and let us know what you think, because it'd be interesting to know is it just us because we're doing this, or is this a consensus that we can get across the board that people like that sort of combination?
I'm picking up a little bit of vinegar from the peanuts at the moment, but
Right, on to sweet.
and of course your versions when you taste them will be different to ours,
Yes.
depending on where you're trying it. This should be going in totally the opposite direction.
This to me is much more what I would normally do as a combination anyway. I tend to do more sweet stuff than I do savoury. Oh, that's quite nice. That's given the cigar a bit of a sweet note, which already had a sweet note anyway.
Yeah. Well, the sweetness from the biscuit's not gone.
No,
Cigar hasn't overpowered it, but actually they're complementing each other.
Yeah. Oh, that's a definite. That's too
Made it
low.
very soft, actually.
It has, which is interesting.
These cookies have got, I think it's white chocolate
Yeah,
in
these
it,
are white chocolate
which
cookies.
is going to be a lot different to dark chocolate. But it's proving quite interesting how something would change. And that's with these cigars. There'll be a different set of things with some of the other cigars we smoke over the time. Because it doesn't overpower the sweetness from the chocolate.
No, that's a good
It just
one.
works with the interior of the cigar, which we're past the first third, so.
And I have to admit, the construction of the cigar is very good. I mean, the burn line on mine.
I just took mine out, but I had a similar amount at that point.
But the burn line's just slightly going. But that's down to humidity, I think, more than anything else, because there's no draft where we are here.
And that's one of the things, quite a few you may find, if you're in this country, that a few cigars get a little bit soft towards the end. I had that actually with one of these last night, and I have literally blown back through it and let it go out.
Yeah.
And it's waiting for me when I get home because it just needs to dry out a little bit at home.
So this is actually, there's a couple of points. It reminds me of one question. Somebody did ask me, how do you stop, basically, I don't know how well you can see that, but the burn line there, the mascara line, is just a little bit crooked. How do you stop that? Now, for me, it happens a lot because I drive quite often when I smoke, and obviously with the draft from the window, it creates a bit of an uneven burn. It normally happens though because you don't rotate your cigar while you're smoking it. So when you breathe in, as you're inhaling your cigar or smoking your cigar, one side of your lungs is slightly stronger than the other. It always is. So therefore, rotate your cigar, and you should even up the burn. But going back to your bit there, I wouldn't normally leave a cigar overnight and then come back to it, because I get asked this quite a lot. Can you put a cigar down for a long period of time and come back to it?
Traditionally, no. A cigar, we talked about this off screen about a month ago. When I was introduced to cigars, you always had the habit that when you start a cigar, you have to smoke it all the way through. And if you smoke it all the way through, we're going to pick up 2 points here. If you smoke it all the way through without doing any back burn at all, it's going to get stronger because of the tar content that's being created in the moisture. Hence, that cigars are always balanced to go slightly lighter. I always felt that there's no reason why you can't put a cigar down and it goes out on you for whatever reason. And I must admit, not often I try and time my smoking at home so that I've actually finished the cigar, but sometimes I don't. the main thing to realize is that it's been constructed in a certain way to be smoked all the way through. It's rather like, I always use the expression, you've opened that lovely bottle of red wine, you've had 2 good glasses out of it in the evening, you put the cork back in, you come back to it the next day, it doesn't taste the same. It can't, because your taste buds are changed, your expression of how you are and where you are and your palate's changed with it. So it always appears to be a bit stronger, and that's what will happen in the cigar. You're just going to get a stronger version because of the tar.
I think as well, also the oils, obviously the cigar, the leaves got quite a lot of oil in, which is what gives a lot of the flavour. Once you've lit it, those oils start to dry out. And therefore that does definitely change the way it works. But yeah, that's been quite a success actually. Which is your favourite? Olives are definitely no.
No, those particular olives, with the because they're in vinegar, definitely not. The olives are nice. I would think you may have to try it with ones in vinegar, in
olive oil.
In oil.
Yeah.
In a light oil. Cheese, absolutely. Even though it's mature cheddar, because it's then slightly stronger. How it would be with something like a brie or something like that could be interesting.
That's true. Yeah, that could be a nice one to try. There's another one to come back and try at some point.
Because there's a sweetness in that. But then we picked that up with that, so it should be
chocolate,
somewhere on this line.
Yeah.
Or possibly.
I think the peanuts for me have been the biggest surprise. I didn't think I would get anything from having salt and vinegar peanuts with a cigar. But that has definitely been a surprise.
Yeah, the second mouthful I got a bit more vinegar, and that stayed and reminded me a little bit of what the olives did. I think Michael's thing was a packet of plain crisps, plain salted crisps.
Yeah.
But certainly when we tried the peanuts, first of all,
That's what
that was worked. And it kept the little bit of spiciness in the cigar still flowing, but also balanced it out. It kept a nice balance to it all. And the sweetness just softens it all down.
Yeah.
I mean, if anything, you got a cigar and you almost say, you got that cigar that you're going to smoke the next day, have a biscuit, nice sweet biscuit with it.
Well, there is that thing, isn't it? Yeah.
Because that will take, if there's any harshness in the cigar, as long as it's being rolled properly, that might actually come. Depends where you've actually stopped it, of course. If you stopped at the halfway point, it will be stronger. There's nothing else about it. But it doesn't mean you can't smoke it. But you just have to understand that it cannot be what you started.
Yeah. Okay, well, there you go. On that note, we're going to smoke a little bit more of this and we'll get ready for the third and final bit, which is what I'm really interested in, which should be the whiskies. So we'll see you in a moment.
Okay, here we are. I've got a few bottles in front of me, or sample bottles, and we're going to start with the relatively newcomer, which is Tora Vague from the Isle of Skye. And the Ultra Gleam, I think, if I just pour a little bit into your glass, is the base strength at 46%. And being Skye, the distillery is in the south of the island, and the famous Talisker is in the north.
That's quite a light, that's light on the palate. That's not overly, there's no real strong peaty notes or anything like that coming through.
I'm getting the smell of the spirits coming up.
Yeah.
And not much else.
It is incredibly light.
It is light, but it's a bit, it reminds me of straight spirit when you have a blended whiskey.
Yeah. It's
Or some of the other more straightforward where there's no label on whether it's a Talisker or some of the other ones.
I'm going to be slightly mean to it and say that for me, there's not even really a hint of vanilla coming through even. It's just, it is, as you say, it's almost like the raw spirit. That's more of a mixer spirit for me.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It would be your whiskey and Coke, essentially, as sacrilegious as that is to say. I'm used to that sweeter note or that real heavy sort of peat note to a whiskey, which gives you something on the back end, especially if you're pairing it with a cigar.
The next one, if you remember rightly, is the cast strength version of that.
Yeah, and if memory serves, that's a very, very different drink.
Very different one.
And actually, straight away, you can tell straight away, actually, that's quite a bit different.
Now, whether that's because of the bringing down from cask strength, that is so different and quite sort of alcoholic, but this one I thought had a lot of, my memory says a lot of body.
Oh, yeah.
Totally different drink.
That's nice. That's very
It
nice.
smells really nice and full-bodied.
Yeah.
Doesn't have the colour that you might suggest with it.
No, that is
But
quite
that
a
is-
light. In fact, you wouldn't with anything. That is a very, very light colour.
That is something you would want to sip very quietly.
Yeah. You would be very happy on a Saturday night with a good cigar, and that would do you for hours.
Thinking of which, I need to
Speaking of
really
which,
light
you-
mine up.
So that's actually quite an interesting thing, isn't it? That's the cask strength version of that.
Yep.
So watering it down has just absolutely ruined it, really.
In that sense, and I must admit, I think I've, out of the 3 bottles I originally had, I've sold one of those and I've restocked on these.
Which says, and that's an interesting point then, isn't it, really? It shows that they've maybe missed the mark with that one. Although this is the thing with whiskey, it will appeal to some people without a doubt.
Because it's drinkable.
Yeah. Right, so next one.
Yep. Well, we better do some work with the glasses. So I'm going to sacrilege that.
Well, it is and it isn't. My infinity dram is that, essentially.
Well, that's where that can go.
Oh.
Right. This is something as well we tasted at the same time. It's from another group called Elixir Distilleries, who buy effectively alcohol from other distilleries and then store them themselves. Their main ingredient is porterage.
Yeah, that's half of these, isn't it? These 3 elements of Isla are half that. What's the other?
Lafroig. So effectively this is Kayla.
Yep.
If I pronounce it right, don't write in.
Well, do write
I've got
in.
it wrong. Well, you can write it in.
Yeah, do write it.
I pronounce it wrong. There'll be somebody out there who will correct us. The first one is cask edition. So all 3 are a mixture, 50%, 50%, Kayla and Lafroig,
Yeah, and they're just matured in different barrels to finish them.
to finish them off. And the first one we'll start with this country because it's the lightest one.
Now, this was an interesting experiment we did, and so much so that I actually then ended up buying a full bottle of that.
Yep. And it's what happens in the process. So this is at 46%.
That is light, but there's a lovely warm sort of element to it.
There's not a lot of alcohol coming off it. I'm not getting that sharp alcohol spirit taste, which is what happened with the 46% of the grain. Actually, I found it quite mellow. It would be interesting to see what you would pair it with food-wise, because it really is quite light.
Yeah, that is very light.
Even
actually.
with the, and the Lafroig is not punching through that.
No, it's not at all. See, this is what I This is what I would famously call a 9 a.m. whiskey. You could have this first thing in the morning, and you wouldn't get heartburn. You wouldn't get anything. It would be a lovely way to wake up. So a great Christmas drink.
Yep.
You know, when you're starting celebrations, you're off for a few days. It doesn't matter. That'd be a great way to start your day.
It's a nice one pre-dinner drink. I think when we were talking several months ago, I suggested it'd be interesting to see what it tastes like with fish. There's a little bit of spiciness come through. It reminds me of some of the French wines, particularly from the Loire Valley as you go down. And you came into Muscadet, which got a little bit of zest about them, but it's what you eat with fish.
Yeah.
And some of those other ones. It's that light, I think it would not hurt a fish dish. The second one is both finished in bourbon cask, and it's at full cask strength.
Yeah, so this one has much more of a punch to it.
Much more punch to it. And I'm going to add volumes to your... No, that one.
Oh, that's...
For those who watch Jason's podcast, he has this taste nut.
We have something called the Infinity Dram. It's been quite a popular thing on TikTok. Basically, way back when, a little bit of a story for you. Way back when I first started on TikTok, I had a baby bourbon and I had a tiny, tiny bit left. And I got moaned at for not finishing the bottle. Because it's like, well, it was only a mouthful, why didn't you have it? And I have a decanter, which some of you will have seen, which is where I put whiskies that I've liked go into an Infinity Dram, what I call an Infinity Dram. And you basically end up with your own mix of whiskey. And it's a great talking point at parties or when you have friends over, because it's whiskies you like. So it teaches you how blending works. And some things work and some things really don't work. And it's an interesting experiment. We're doing one at the moment, which is the Irish edition. There will be a new episode of that on my TikTok channel, probably within the next week or so. So stay tuned. But anyway, back to this. This is definitely a much sweeter.
The peat's coming through.
Yeah.
From the Lafroig.
But you're definitely getting a bit more of the bourbon note there.
Yeah, because it's finished in bourbon cask.
Yeah,
so it's a much stronger drink. You certainly don't want to have too much more than this before you drive. In fact, probably better you don't.
Yeah, I wouldn't drive after drinking these.
No. Because that's one thing most people don't understand. At 40%, that's what the limit is based on. Once you go up to 60, a single shot is a double ration.
Yes.
Even though it's only that 15% up or 20% up, it doubles the effect on you.
Yeah, I mean, as a rule, I do love my whiskies a lot, but I generally will not drive if I've had whiskey, just because it's not worth it. There's a little bit more, yeah, you're right. There's definitely some of that smokiness starting to come through.
Yeah.
But it's still it's definitely sitting on your palate, but it's still very sweet. It's got that bourbon-esque note to it.
But it's going to say hello to you as it goes down.
Oh, yeah. You're definitely feeling it in the back of your throat. You're definitely feeling that one go.
I think if you're going to have a time of day this one, it's probably pre-dinner.
Yes. So,
as opposed to pre-lunch.
Yeah. So one is pre-lunch, one's pre-dinner, and the other's to finish the night off. Now, I know this whiskey well that you're about to give me. This is the third one of the three.
This is still at cask strength at 54%, rather like the bourbon cask. But they've taken it and they finished in
a sherry barrel.
Sherry barrel.
Hence why I've picked out my Diamonds glass for this one, because this one kicks, really kicks, but I really, really like this one.
The main difference with this is that it's the strength for the flavour.
Yeah. Memory serves, it's a very balanced flavour.
Yes, and that's, I think, one of the things you liked about it is that you know you're on a strong drink, but it's also strong in flavour.
Yeah, and it matches. It's that, I think that's the hardest thing with a lot of whiskies, I find. If you like strong whiskies, that's fine, but sometimes the strong whiskey just knocks you out too quickly, or it's too much and you can only take a small, tiny amount.
Yeah.
But if you find one that's balanced, then you can enjoy it, like really enjoy it.
Putting it through the sherry class balances out what that one doesn't do.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a reason why I bought a bottle of you. That is just divine, in my opinion.
So that's 6 different whiskies. I have a few more bottles here, which we will deal with on another occasion.
Yes.
Because otherwise...
We'll be here for like the next 4 hours.
Well, he'll be asleep and his wife won't talk to me, but we won't go down that road.
Let's not do
In fact,
that.
we're not going down the road. What I've done is some of the other miniatures. So from Douglas Lang, who are blenders of various whiskies, I've got Scallywag, which is typical Speyside, Epicure, which represents a sort of lowland. They do 3 others as well. Tomatin, which is Highland.
Yep.
And it's finished in a port cask, so it'll be slightly sweety. And of course, your favourite, or one of your favourites, and that's the 12-year-old Glenanachie.
That is. I can see why that one won Whiskey of the Year, without a doubt.
You've got straightforward Speyside. That's quite light, which reminds me of some of the lightness that Daft Mill has.
Okay.
Pale straw colour.
Yeah.
Which is lowland. Very specific distillery, very small output, less than 1,000 bottles a time.
You see, that makes it special in its own right as well, doesn't it? Because it gives you that sort of more exclusivity about it.
It's a single farm operation. When they're growing barley, they can't make whiskey. They don't have time. When they've got it all in, they then go and make whiskey from it.
Yeah.
So the production, I think, it is less than 1,000 without going back on the website. It's not cheap. I think the 12-year-old is at least £100 or thereabouts, depending where you are, because of its limited thing. There is a 15-year-old which is heading towards £200.
Wow.
But it's niche. It's still interesting what happens with the various whiskies around. There's quite a lot of innovation going around. A lot of the stuff you see, like port casks coming through, or you've got red wine coming through. Tobermory does it, for example, with their leading, which will probably have a similar effect as the sherry cask does on the leading, because that's a peaty version of Tobermory. Billy Walker is one of the main champions of dealing with stuff, and I think others have fallen suit to make it not just straight whiskey, but sort of moving the market around and appealing to more people.
Exactly, I think, again, it's the whole thing we were talking about with cigars, isn't it? It's the innovation. Whiskey is really beginning to show some innovation, which is nice to see. And I think it's something that will hopefully keep the industries alive, because they need some help.
I think so. I mean, the tax on the alcohol and whiskey hasn't gone up that much in the last few years compared to, let's say, tobacco products. But there is a worldwide market for the whiskey.
Yeah.
I remember way back, and I'm going back 55 years now, and I was my father was working in Malaysia at the time, and the company chairman's son from Hennessy the brandy was out in the southeast looking at the southeast operation. And at that time, and it won't have changed much, for the Hennessy brandy company, 25% sale of the world's sales were in the triangle of Hong Kong, Singapore, Malaysia, back.
Yeah.
And that probably hasn't changed. And whiskies will be doing the same thing. There are overseas whiskies that you see in the duty frees, which will have a different name in this country.
Yeah.
Whether it's from Chivas Brothers, Johnny Walker, the duty frees are full of Blue Label.
But actually, the Johnny Walker Blue Label's not bad. I don't mind that.
You're hard work finding it in this country.
True. But that then retails at about £130 to £160 in this country. Now, for a blended whiskey, I find that very hard to swallow.
And
but it is a nice whiskey.
And it's a 15-year-old.
Yes.
So you've got the age factor depending which distilleries they're actually using.
Which ones they're sourced from.
Yeah.
It's interesting you say about the Tobermory being port cask. I think cigar smokers generally tend to favour port cask whiskies.
Again, it's picking up on the sweetness of what is the English palate, because some of the whiskies are light and not so sweet, depending what you talk about. Sherry casks, this is finished in sweet sherry, this is made in sweet sherry casks.
Yes.
So there is a natural sweetness. But you have the other types of sherry, Amontillado, which is the medium, and let's say Tio Pepe, the dry ones, you'll get different whiskies from those. So the big distilleries are having all those barrels and then mixing to make their own particular blend on it.
Okay, then I think that wraps us up for this episode of The Tasting Hour. Don't forget to do the usual: like, follow, subscribe. You'll find us all over the place at the moment. Next month is going to be an interesting one. We've got Trident cigars, Trident military cigars, which will be a very interesting conversation, because obviously they're involved with the military. Basically to do with charities as well, which is why I wanted to get them involved with us, really. So hopefully you'll stay tuned and enjoy that episode when it comes up. But both from me and from Gary, we should catch you on the next episode.
See you then. Bye now.